The neighborhood meeting was already a circus. But when Karen stormed in wearing a knockoff police uniform with HOA stitched in Comic Sans, I knew we were in for a wild ride. She clutched a megaphone like it was her lifeline, her voice screeching through the cul-de-sac. This community's gone to hell, and I'm here to fix it. By the time she declared herself chief of the Sunny Meadows Safety Patrol, I was torn between laughing and running for cover. It all started 3 months ago in Sunny Meadows, a cookie-cutter suburb outside Phoenix where the biggest crime is forgetting to mow your lawn. I'm Jake Torres, a freelance graphic designer who moved here for the quiet life. My wife Inalella and I bought a modest ranch-style home, thinking we'd blend into the picket fence fantasy. The neighbors were friendly enough. Tom, the retired vet who grilled burgers every Sunday, Aisha, the yoga instructor with a knack for gossip, and Mrs. Nguyen, who grew roses that could make you cry. They were so perfect. But then there was Karen Whitaker, the self-appointed queen of the block. 50-something, perpetually sunburned, and armed with a clipboard, Karen had a way of turning potlucks into interrogations. Your trash cans were out past 7 p.m. Jake, she'd say, like I'd committed treason. Lila called her the HOA's unpaid intern. We didn't even have an HOA. Karen's reign of terror began innocently enough. She started with passive-aggressive notes taped to mailboxes. Please trim your hedges for community standards. Then came the group chat, where she'd spam us with reminders about neighborhood pride. Most of us rolled our eyes and muted her, but Karen wasn't one to be ignored. One sweltering July evening, she called an emergency meeting at the community center. I showed up expecting a debate about speed bumps. Instead, Karen unveiled her masterpiece, the Sunny Meadows Safety Patrol, a vigilante squad she'd formed to enforce order. She'd recruited a dozen neighbors, mostly bored retirees, and a couple of sketchy guys from the edge of the subdivision. They wore cheap blue vests with HOA ironed on, looking like a dollar store SWAT team. Karen, naturally, was their chief. This neighborhood's under siege, she declared, pacing the room like a general. Loud music, unregistered cars, kids on skateboards, it's chaos. I glanced at Tom, who was stifling a laugh. Aisha whispered, "Is she serious?" But Karen was dead serious. She handed out patrol schedules and violation tickets she'd printed at Kinko's. Her rules were absurd. No basketball hoops after 8 p.m. No suspicious vehicles, whatever that meant. And my personal favorite, no excessive lawn decorations. Mrs. Nguyen's rose garden was apparently too flashy. The trouble started when Karen's patrol got bold. They'd roam the streets at night, shining flashlights into yards and scribbling citations for things like unapproved mailbox colors. One night, I caught her lackey, Gary, a guy who smelled like cheap cologne, and regret measuring my grass with a ruler. 3 inches max. Jake, he said, like he was busting me for smuggling. I told him to get off my property. He just smirked and left a ticket on my doorstep, $50 for lawn non-compliance. I crumpled it up and tossed it in the recycling. Lila, though, was livid. She's out of control, she said. This isn't an HOA, it's a cult. The neighborhood split like a fault line. Some folks, like Tom, thought it was hilarious and played along, saluting Karen's goons just to mess with them. Others, like Aisha, started pushing back. She organized a rival group chat called Free Sunny Meadows, where we vented about Karen's nonsense. But Karen doubled down. She started fining people actual cash demands, slipped under doors and envelopes marked official HOA notice. When Mrs. Nguyen got a $100 fine for her roses, she cried. That's when I knew this wasn't funny anymore. Karen wasn't just annoying, she was hurting people. Then came the twist none of us saw coming. Enter Marcus Reed, the quiet guy who'd moved into the corner house 6 months ago. Marcus kept to himself, drove a nondescript SUV, and always waved politely but never lingered. We figured he was just shy. Turns out, Marcus was an FBI field agent, working undercover on a case nobody in Sunny Meadows knew about. He'd been watching Karen's antics. Not because he cared about her fake police force, but because her patrols were screwing up his surveillance. See, one of Karen's suspicious vehicles belonged to a low-level informant Marcus was tracking. Every time Karen's goons tailed the guy, they risked blowing his cover. Marcus had stayed silent, hoping Karen's nonsense would fizzle out. It didn't. The breaking point came on a Friday night in August. Karen's patrol had escalated to banging on doors, demanding ID checks from anyone they deemed unfamiliar. They'd even started stopping delivery drivers, accusing them of trespassing. Isha caught it all on her Ring camera and posted the footage to Free Sunny Meadows. The group chat exploded. "This is harassment," one neighbor wrote. "She's acting like a dictator," another said. I suggested we confront her at the next meeting, but Lila had a better idea. "Let's go public." Aisha agreed, and by morning, her video had hit X, racking up thousands of views. The hashtag #JoryUnaFakeHoCop went viral. Strangers online were roasting Karen, calling her suburban Stalin. I'll admit, I laughed. But I also felt a knot in my gut. This was about to get ugly. The climax hit like a freight train. Karen, humiliated but unbowed, called a mandatory neighborhood meeting to address the slander. She showed up in her full chief getup vest, badge, even a fake whistle flanked by her loyalists. The community center was packed, the air thick with tension. Aisha stood up first, holding her phone like a weapon. "Karen, you're not a cop. You're not even an HOA. You're bullying people, and it stops now." The room erupted in cheers. Tom chimed in. "You fine my dog for barking. Lady, my dog, even Mrs. Goyen, usually soft-spoken, stood and said, 'My roses are my heart. You don't get to take that.'" Karen's face turned beet red. "You're all ungrateful," she screamed into her megaphone. "I'm saving this neighborhood." That's when Marcus stood up. The room went dead silent. He pulled out a badge, not a cheap knockoff, but the real deal. "Karen Whitaker," he said, his voice calm but razor sharp. "You've been interfering with a federal investigation. Your patrol is done." The crowd gasped. Karen froze, her megaphone slipping from her hand. I swear I heard it clatter in slow motion. Marcus laid it out. Karen's fake police force had spooked his informant, who'd gone dark, jeopard of like a sitcom character realizing they'd been caught in their own ridiculous plot. Her citations had also landed her in hot water for extortion, turns out. Demanding cash without legal authority is a crime. The room buzzed as neighbors processed the bombshell. Isha filmed it all, and by nightfall, the video was trending nationwide. Karen's empire crumbled in real time. Her goons slunk out the back. Gary muttered something about just following orders and vanished. The fallout was swift and brutal. Karen tried to play the victim, posting teary rants on X about cancel culture and unfair targeting. It didn't work. The internet tore her apart, memeing her fake badge into oblivion. Locally, the damage was deeper. Mrs. Nguyen's roses became a symbol of resistance. Neighbors started planting their own in solidarity. Aisha's Free Sunny Meadows group became the de facto community council, organizing barbecues instead of patrols. Marcus, ever the ghost, disappeared back into his work, though he did stop by to thank Lila for her coffee cake. "You didn't hear this from me," he said with a wink, "but Karen's got a court date." Looking back, I'm still stunned at how fast it all unraveled. Karen thought she was the hero, but she was the villain in her own story. Her safety patrol wasn't just absurd, it was a power trip that hurt real people. The lesson: power, even in a cul-de-sac, can corrupt if you let it. Sunny Meadows is quieter now, but stronger. We talk to each other, not at each other. Mrs. Nguyen's roses are thriving, and I've even started gardening myself. Lila says it's my midlife crisis. Maybe she's right. What do you think? Have you ever dealt with a Karen in your neighborhood? Drop your story below. I'd love to hear how you handled it.